Well, to everyone. Okay, sorry for that. My camera's a little bit different tonight. Please let me know if you can see the slides. Share the slides. I didn't share the slides. Sure.
Not yet.
Okay, thank you for that. And if you can mute yourself, that would be good, and answer me in the chat. Okay, let me just do this again. Share screen. There we go. How about now? Give me a yes in the chat. Open the chat. See what it is. Beautiful. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so welcome everyone. We're up to session number 15. Sorry for the delay, and it is what it is. My camera's a little bit different tonight, but we will do it this way. So thank you again for everyone for showing up tonight, and I want to thank you for the feedback that you sent to Coach Menachem at gmail.com. I really appreciate it. So I can see what you take out, what are your takeouts from the session, and questions, any questions you can send there, and if I have time, I can respond. Last week, we went through a little bit of, in order to love others, we need to love ourselves, and we did some affirmations of love, which for some people is very hard. And we discussed why that is. Some people feel they don't deserve. And it usually comes from a belief, comes from our younger years that we pick up, but we're not even aware. And that's basically our meeting our inner child, which we're gonna continue tonight, to meet our inner child a little bit. And we discussed how to. So what we came to the conclusion last week was basically that we have many needs, and if they're not met when we're young, what happens is we come up with the belief that either we don't deserve, or we feel that we're different, we don't belong. And even though it doesn't have to be a specific trauma, but it's just unmet needs. And if we have unmet needs in the childhood, it has a result on the way we look at ourselves when we get older. And what we discussed is, and that's the way how you reflect, how you interact with others. It's very hard to be there for another if you can't be there for yourself, because there's a lot of triggers that come up that trigger you, and you might not even be aware. And like we discussed many times, to be able to be in that space, just to be sitting there, but because of our beliefs and the things that the needs that we didn't pick up, it has an effect, and it's hard for us to be there. But very important, never too late to heal. We could heal ourselves, and there are people that need help from others, could be therapy or whatever help they can get, but you can do it by yourself if you understand it. Basically, it's by learning to nurture your inner child. So very important to become aware of our inner child, like we discussed last week, to be able to have that dialogue. Sometimes our thoughts that we have, the back and forth, is that inner child that doesn't want to do certain things, has certain feelings, to be there to nurture that inner child, validate, which we discussed before, but we'll talk about it more tonight, to be able to validate and learn to express emotions in a healthy way with self-compassion and self-love. This is the 5 levels of Maslow's hierarchy that basically over here we could see where many get stuck. So the physical needs, that's number 1. If somebody's lacking physical needs, then they can't go anywhere. They just can't think, they're not healthy. They need the basic stuff. We're talking about air, water, just to be alive. So that is number 1 that every human being needs, no matter when. Those are the basics. And if you have that, you can go to the second level. The safety needs that we have is basically personal security, just feeling you can have that resources, the health. It's really be feeling safe. Just that it's like a relaxed state. You have what you need, and you could feel that safety. What we're discussing is really the next level, love and belonging, is which many have a hard time just believing that they deserve, that they're part of, that they can have connection, real connection, vulnerable connection with others, and real friendship. But it's for many of us, like we discussed, it could be coming from that we're lacking in the safety needs. So like I mentioned, we don't want to blame anybody, but if you're talking about parents that were after the war, so we know that they were very concerned about the physical needs. Just make sure you have what you need, foods and shelter. And once you have that, they were happy, because coming from where they were coming from, you couldn't ask for more. And just make sure that you have clothing, you have a roof on your head, and you have food, and that was that. But it sometimes didn't go to the next level of, it didn't go to love and belonging, to the emotional parts. And many could be lacking from, okay, sorry. Again, it doesn't have to be a parent. It can be a teacher. It can be friends. Anybody from when you're young, and what they say has an impression. We take it literal, and that's what we believe about ourselves. So what we need to do is basically go back to that inner child, be able to connect to that part of us, that whatever age it is, it could be a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, and see what it needs. And by connecting, by talking, by giving, by nurturing, we can slowly rebuild the trust, and give that inner child the basic needs that it needs. Just a second. Okay, sorry, the screen doesn't work, so we'll stay here. So there are two very important pieces to heal our inner child. Number 1 is to become aware of our inner child. And we can do that through journaling. You can sit down and write down your thoughts and subconscious thoughts. Many of those thoughts are that inner child inside of you that could be complaining or not happy, or it could be even positive. If you can remember some good times when you were young, that inner child that it liked, like those positive times, bring it all out. You can write it down, learn how to talk to it, spend some time with it by imagining you're sitting with a little child, and give it the space, give it that a space of where he can just tell you whatever it is, whether it's positive or negative. And like we discussed, to be able to sit there and hear it, just the positive, whatever it is, positive or negative. Self-care is also a very important piece that can help you with your inner child just by giving yourself the care, taking care of yourself. Many people have no problem taking care of others, and they do that all day. But when it comes to themselves, subconscious, they might not believe that they deserve. If you can spend some time with yourself, give yourself basic needs, what it needs, just, it could be food, whatever it is, spend some time taking care of yourself. That's how you connect to your inner child. After you become aware of it, that's when we can go to the nurturing side. You want to nurture it. You can write it a letter. You can even apologize. Say the positive affirmations like we discussed. I love you. I'm here for you. Whatever it is, I'm here. You can tell me what you want. It's safe. I'm giving you a safe space. And you deserve it. You're smart. Just by giving some positive affirmation to that inner child. But that's how you nurture, and you're giving it what it needs. And through that, even though it's many, many years later, it could heal. And it's never too late. So this is the basic, what we discussed last week. And really what we need to do is spend more time to learn how to connect to our inner child, which we'll do. But I want to take the opportunity tonight. I want to discuss just to see how it comes into what we're learning. I do want to talk about this terrible, terrible story that's going on about Chaim Walder. And I think this is a very, very good place where we can learn many concepts that we're discussing. Because basically we don't know, and I don't know if you know, but when we hear such a story, whatever you heard, the world crumbles. You don't know how to make sense out of it. And you find yourself in a place that feels very, very uncomfortable. It doesn't make sense, and it doesn't work the way we're thinking. It just doesn't work. And what we need in such a place, such a time, is really back to that safety needs that we have on the screen. If you can see it, the safety needs. It's just to be able to make sense out of what's going on. It doesn't add up. Again, you don't have to know exactly yes, true, not true, if you don't know exactly what happened, but it just by hearing whatever you heard takes you to a place of making no sense, feeling lost, very uncomfortable. So this is really the space that we discussed many times. Let's take a moment and think, what was your reaction when you heard it, or whatever developed, whatever you heard? What was your reaction? Speaking to many people, I can hear that they're running away from it. Now, some people say, let's not talk about it because Lashon Hara, which is nice, but something, why are you so busy with it? Well, leave it alone, it doesn't make sense. There's a lot of that escaping. So by somebody telling you, I don't know, we don't know, and I can't stay there, just what, let's not stay here. Basically, it's very hard for a person to stay in a place where it's very, very uncomfortable. And what we need to do is validate. Really the same way, I'm saying the question is always, why is it so important to stay there? So let me tell you, let's say if your kid walks into your room and wants to talk to you, and he brings up this story and says, Tati, Mommy, what happened? What's going on? What's the story? And basically, by them hearing the bits and pieces, for them, their world doesn't make sense. Something doesn't make sense. You're talking about looking at a situation, could be reading the books, which could be they picked up a lot, and now you're telling them that whatever they heard on the street, and they walk into the room. So there's a few ways what you can do. You can dismiss it. You tell them, we're not talking about it. You could say it's Lashon Hara. Or it's something we're not going to discuss. It's basically dismissing, which we discuss always. What does the child feel when you dismiss it? It basically says subconsciously that what I think doesn't make a difference. Or people don't really care what I think. People don't understand me. And we don't want that. We need that your kid should feel validated. So what am I supposed to tell them? That's the question that everybody asks. You basically need to validate. And validate means what they feel is 100% right. Yes, it makes no sense. And in this case, we feel the same way. It could be a little even easier if you're not running away from your feelings. You don't have an answer. You don't know. You're in a situation where you don't know. And being able to tell your child, you're 100% right. It makes no sense. And you stay there so that you're with your child, and the child sees that there is somebody else, an adult, with him just being there, versus running away and saying, let's not talk about it. Let's not discuss it. We can't understand it. So let's not talk about it. The same way you need to validate for your child. Why? Because you're the adult in the room. You can't act like a little kid, and you can't run away from it either because it's uncomfortable. That child needs an adult to understand it, to be there with it. The same way your inner child can be confused when he hears such a thing, or it feels confused, it needs that adult to just be there. If you dismiss it, that means the inner child doesn't feel understood. So this is another way to nurture your inner child. You connect to it, you understand that it makes no sense. You understand that the way they feel is just the way they feel. And you can even tell them, I feel the same way. And it gives them some sense of ease, even though it doesn't give them the answers, but it does help to just be there and feel validated and not dismissed as what I feel. People don't feel the same way as me. I must be crazy. No, it is normal. So that's number one for us, even if your child is not coming to ask you about it, but for you, when you hear a story that makes no sense, you can suppress and just say, I'm not going to think about it. Or you just sit for a few moments and say, I doesn't make sense. I can't. I don't know how to process it, and just stay there. Just breathe. That's the space. Don't look for any distractions. Just stay there for a few minutes. And that's what it is. It makes feeling a sense of belonging, understanding. And I just want to add with one more idea, which they mention, which I heard from Yaakov Horowitz, which he deals with these things. But he did say that this is a teachable moment. Usually, if you want to talk about these things, he did put out a book, but if you talk about it, the kids don't really understand what you're trying to say. But if your child is coming home with information and it's on the table and they're talking about it, this is a time to tell your kid that there is such a thing out there and you have to make sure you stay safe, meaning you're not supposed to scare them, but if somebody comes too close to you, if somebody does something that's uncomfortable, you should be able to say no and come tell an adult. If you teach it now, they will probably get it better than when you teach it from a book or you want to talk about it at a different time, because it doesn't really relate. But over here, there's something on the table which we would love. It wouldn't be, but it is on the table. The kid might be talking about it. It's a teachable moment. You don't want to lose it. And you can tell them that there is an idea of people out there who you have to be strong enough to say no and come tell an adult. So these are two things: validation and a teachable moment. I'll go back a second to the validation part. We are in a place that we don't understand, and we don't know. Again, I'm not saying right, wrong, yes, no. I have no idea, and it could be you do know, but I don't know. But even not with not knowing, you're just in a place that feels very uncomfortable, and you don't know what to say. You don't know what to feel. You might feel a lose of trust or whatever it is, and just feel it. Stay there. And that is the way of nurturing our inner child. So I would like to open it up. If you have any questions, you can ask live, you can raise your hand, or you can put it in the chat. But these are the important pieces to be able to connect to our inner child, connect to those feelings, and just validate to be there. Don't run away from it, because it needs you to connect to it, to nurture it, and to tell it, I love you. I'm here for you. You can tell me whatever's on your mind. And that means you won't get triggered, even though you might get triggered, but you're there, you're not running away. So thank you very much. That's all I wanted to say about the situation. And now if you have any questions, please put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand to ask live. And in Menachem next week, we will continue how to nurture our inner child. We'll do some meditation. Thank you very much for the feedback, and you can let me know. Let me know what your takeaway is. Okay, so for those who are asking, what do I mean by making no sense? So again, it could be when you hear such a story, everything falls into place and you have no problem with it. That's okay. But for me personally, it's like a feeling of somebody who you trusted, and now the whole thing falls apart. Whether it's true or not, we don't know where to put it. I don't know where to put the pieces. And that's what I mean by making no sense. How do you make a person aware that he is in need, that he's needy in the area of self-esteem? So the question is if you're asking for yourself or for somebody else. How do you make a person aware that he is needy in the area of self-esteem? So the question is, if you have a relationship with that person, that you can discuss it, but sometimes we can't tell other people. And what we're doing here is just being able to help ourselves to see where we lack in self-esteem, where we lack in feeling that we can do it. So the question is really, how do I know if I'm needy, if I'm lacking in self-esteem? So I would say just journaling helps with that. Write about yourself, what you think about different ideas. But when you want to do something new, if you want to meet somebody new, how do you feel? Do you shy away? And see how you feel about yourself when things don't work out, right? But a little bit of perfectionism comes in there. When things have to be perfect, and if not, you don't do it. That could be a lack of just feeling good about yourself, because you only feel good if things work out. But if it doesn't, then you don't. So that could be a lack of self-esteem. Okay, so thank you. That's about it for tonight. Um, hopefully we'll see you in Mitzvah Hashem next week, Wednesday, to continue how to nurture ourself, our inner child. But what you can do is start off, whether it's journaling, spending some time with yourself, becoming aware of those thoughts, seeing what you need, what are the things that you would like to change, come up with those ideas, and basically that's how we slowly, in a safe way, connect to that inner child and listen to the negatives, because you want to be the adult and not run away from the child when it comes up with negatives, and write it down and say, listen, I'm here for you. I don't know exactly how I'm going to fix and help you with this as of now, but I'm going to work on it. And you're talking to your inner child just like you're talking to a different 5-year-old, 6-year-old that comes to complain to you. And you can't just push it away. It needs you, and it's relying on you. It might not have the answers, which is okay, but to say, we'll work on it. I'm here for you, and we'll try to figure it out. So when negatives do come up, become aware. And it could be hard. You're talking about many years and years of negativity sometimes. So write it down and say, we will take care of it. I'm here for you. So thank you very much. Have a great night and a great week. And we'll see you next week, Wednesday. Thank you again for coming.